The Majority Report with Sam Cedar, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
It is Friday, January 12th, 2018. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live, steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, David Dayen of the Intercept and the New Republic, and just about every online outlet there is, and author, Chain of Title. On this week's in news, not to mention Aflac, rife with fraud and abuse. And joining us later to offer us a film suggestion for the weekend, Matthew Film Guy from Matthew Film Guy World. Meanwhile, immigration talks flounder as Trump is annoyed with shithole immigrants.
Super irritated.
So irritating. Trump's visit to London canceled because of fears of mass protests. And we just didn't get a good deal on the McDonald's.
Bad deal. A bummer.
702 of FISA reauthorized, including more ways for government to spy on you without a warrant, and with votes from people ostensibly scared of Trump. Meanwhile, Trump has his first physical today, and a country silently prays for a syphilis test. Corporate America celebrates tax cuts with worker layoffs. And our government is missing 245 key positions that don't even have nominees as of yet. And on a good note, New York City taking on oil companies. All this and more on today's program, ladies and gentlemen.
Ivanka, Jared has syphilis. It's the only way I could have gotten it. It's passed through you. Go check yourself immediately. I knew to never trust that little Jew with rickets.
It's Friday. Happy birthday, Jared. Beat you up.
Friday. Yeah, that was
it. Friday.
That was exactly.
That was your birthday
that was
present for him.
Nailed it. It's Jared's birthday. Happy 37, you little prick.
There you go.
Hope you're in jail.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think you can hear... That's good.
I met him.
You met him?
Yeah. I met him at a New York Observer party once.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, he was like, "Hi, I'm Jared Kushner. Nice to meet you. Jared, keep up the good work."
Sounds like a very sweet guy.
It was very strange in retrospect.
I bet. It's getting stranger,
working,
too.
And it's very exciting.
We're all very tired today.
Yeah, folks, I think you can hear in my voice that I am not feeling very well. And so there's a good chance that Michael will be taking over later in this program. Of course, there is a lot of blowback from Donald Trump, apparently sitting in a room full of lawmakers and saying that... asking why should we let immigrants in from shithole countries? He was referring to countries from Africa. Incidentally, I don't know if the president understands that there are countries in Africa. Africa's not the country.
It's the shittiest country, and Haiti is the shittiest part of it.
So big.
Look, Nelson Mandela was a great guy.
I think he was also speaking of some Central American countries, including Haiti.
hating the Caribbean, El Salvador in Central America, and then just Africa.
I mean, was he getting that specific? Or he's just like,
he got, supposedly in the comments before, he got specific about Nigeria and said that they lived in huts. He watched Nat Geo as a kid.
It has been impressive how much people have been trying to sort of justify these comments. Here is Senator Dick Durbin, not one of those people who are looking to justify it, but to say like, hey, this is sort of inappropriate.
The president interrupted him several times with questions, and in the course of his comments, said things which were hate-filled, vile, and racist. I use those words advisedly. I understand how powerful they are. But I cannot believe that in the history of the White House and that Oval Office, any president has ever spoken the words that I personally heard our president speak yesterday. You've seen the comments in the press. I have not read one of them that's inaccurate.
So there you have it. Dick Durbin, pretty outraged. And later in the program, we'll probably get to clips of people trying to justify it. The best response I saw or I heard of was on Twitter, where Tomi Lahren had said, I mean, come on. Why, if these places weren't shitholes, why would people want to come here? And who was it, Matt, that Andrew Kaczynski, is he from CNN now? He said, why do you live, work in California, New York City, instead of your native South Dakota?
Why do we keep taking all these people from these inbred devil countries?
Meanwhile, speaking of one of those countries that Donald Trump would surely appreciate immigrants from, Pete Hoekstra is the ambassador, the United States ambassador to where is he? To Holland?
The Netherlands.
To the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And he has. I'm not quite clear on why he was sent there. Is Hoekstra a Dutch?
I assume
he's got some type of Dutch background. He has been most vocal, though, in his tenure as a House member on the real problems that have been going on, apparently, in the Netherlands, involving no-go zones and the burning of Dutch politicians by Muslims, of course. And apparently, not only has he been a champion in the House of Representatives in the United States, he seems to be the only person who is willing to report on this stuff. And so you can imagine when he gets to Holland that he would be recognized as a hero. But it turns out that none of that stuff is true. And we've already seen one example of this. Like the Dutch, I think this is becoming like a national sport now, where they embarrass this guy. So he is put there for questions, and if you're just listening, it's gonna sound weird because there's gonna be questions. And what you aren't aware of, I mean, it sounds like, oh, he must be walking away and he's not hearing anything. He's literally staring 3 feet in front of the people who are asking him questions and pretending he's not hearing them. And then you'll hear one of his aides say, does anybody have any questions? And everybody's like, yeah, we're asking them. Here it is.
Yes, answer the question. Answer the question.
Mr. Ambassador, can you mention any example of a Dutch politician who is burned recent years?
We go to Bonnie.
Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning.
This is not how this works, guys. Come on.
This is the Netherlands. You have to answer questions.
Please.
This is not how it works.
He's answering the questions.
No, he
Please
didn't,
go
he
to
didn't
Bonnie.
answer mine.
Yeah.
Or ill coach.
Didn't answer his question, didn't answer his question.
If we don't have any further questions, then we can.
We do.
No,
Okay,
This is the Netherlands. You have to answer questions.
It is.
People are just sitting there. Nothing computes. I mean, I hope at one point they go like, why do we let ambassadors in from these shithole countries?
To be fair to him, it is a really annoying accent.
Yeah, well, I guess. I mean, but he was the one who signed up for it, theoretically,
Well,
right?
he should have done Sarah Palin. He should have just been like, oh, all of them, any of them, and we are so concerned about all the great Dutch politicians getting burned. Which ones? Oh, so many have been.
Let's just do one of these one of these blowbacks. I guess the trying to justify the or here's Don Lemon. Let's do it this way. Oh no, I'm sorry, Jesse Waters. Yeah. Here's a clip of Jesse Waters. He is of the five. Is he of the five? Is he? Yeah, he's the five. Trying to justify the president's comments about shitholes. And Brendan, I think, has the most apt take on Jesse Waters. He's just like a rich guy who just stumbled into a job, worked hard as an intern, and now has the best gig in the planet where he can just, make up just about anything, say it, and get paid for it.
Fake news, or if it's true, this is how the forgotten men and women in America talk at the bar. This is how Trump relates to people. If you're at a bar and you're in Wisconsin and you're thinking they're bringing in a bunch of Haiti people or El Salvadorians or people from Niger, this is how some people talk. Is it graceful? No. Is it polite or delicate? Absolutely not. Is it a little offensive? Of course it is. But you know what? This doesn't move the needle at all. This is who Trump is. He doesn't care. He shoots from the hip. And if he offends some people, fine. There's so many more offensive things that are happening in this world. We just talked about ISIS beheading people. There's crime in the inner city. People are getting, kicked off the, kicked off welfare.
Okay, but we're talking about this. I mean,
I'm trying to
Hold on, pause it for 1 second. Is he worried about people getting kicked off welfare? Yeah, he sort of mistakenly just sort of like,
poverty is increasing.
Wait,
these cultural distractions obscure the real relationship between capital and work.
Put it into perspective here. An off-the-cuff comment from the president isn't a big deal.
We're talking about people from
Jesse's
Haiti.
running out the clock.
We're talking about people from Africa.
Yes.
So if he said all these white people coming here from these blank hole, I think you, Jesse, would be like, oh my God.
I think he was talking about third world countries.
I don't care.
And you're bringing in people that have very low skills and low education.
He didn't say that.
Because it was in the context of the immigration debate.
They're talking about.
I think he was talking about third world countries, so it's perfectly legitimate.
Oh, I thought he was talking about Germany, Norway.
I think to a certain extent, it probably does continue to resonate with his base, his racist base, of course.
Not to a certain extent,
and
to all extent.
I'm sure there are racists sitting at a bar in Wisconsin, and there are racists sitting at a bar in New York and in Massachusetts, and then probably down towards Florida and Georgia, and then we work our way back across the country, the southern, southwest. I mean, there are racists sitting at bars everywhere. The thing is that it's making it a lot harder for those people who like to associate themselves, who perceive themselves as not racist, to stay on the Trump train, as it were. And so happy.
You can take the devil out of his cave, but you can't take the cave out of his mind.
I think that's probably what,
that's what
Waters was trying to say.
Hey, do you guys know the German word for a face badly in need of a fist?
No, please.
Waters?
Backpfeifengesicht. I don't know why I thought of that just now.
That's a good word.
That is a good word. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break when we come back. Jesse Waters?
Jesse Waters?
When we come back, we'll be talking to David Dayen. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome back to this program David Dayen, writer from just about every outlet there is online, and also author of Chain of Title, probably the most important book, I think, on the on the mortgage meltdown of 2008, the fraud that was rife in that industry. David Dayen, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you as always for your kind words.
All right. Well, look, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on broadly in the news, but before we do, I want to start with, because you've written a couple of pieces. Well, let's start with Aflac, and then we'll just work our way into, what we're seeing from different businesses in regard to how they're spending their tax cuts. And then maybe we'll work our way into the immigration stuff. But Aflac.
Aflac.
Yeah, great commercials. Turns out basically a criminal enterprise.
Well, it's funny because we didn't figure out to use this concept, but it really is, in reality, the milkshake duck concept. If you know the meme online, milkshake duck. Hey, look at this beautiful duck that everybody loves. Oh, it turns out it's horrible.
Oh, is it vomit?
That's
is that
what's
what happens?
going on.
Does the duck vomit a
What's
milkshake? What happens? I don't get the milkshake duck.
Oh, you don't know milkshake duck?
No.
Milkshake duck is a Twitter meme where, hey, look at this delightful duck. Oh, this duck has been accused of sexual harassment.
Oh, no.
Everybody loves a duck, but no, this is horrible. The idea that something cute then disappoints you. So maybe your listeners know.
No, there's no doubt in my
But
mind
anyway.
that I'm the only one who's not aware of the milkshake duck. So, all right. So,
but yes. So here's what's going on. So a source contacted me about he is an ex-employee at Aflac, which is a voluntary insurance company, not just life insurance, but accident insurance. It's supplemental insurance. It sits on top of your health insurance. And he presented to me a series of allegations and a copious amount of evidence that really impacts almost all levels of the company. It's whether it's against employees, fraud against employees, fraud against customers, fraud against shareholders. And Aflac has so far categorically denied all of this, but the evidence is quite compelling. And so we started a series that we're calling Behind the Duck at the Intercept. And the first installment of it came yesterday, and it really focuses on the work experience, which, is similar, although more egregious, I would say, to a lot of sort of commission-based sales businesses in the United States, where in this case, the employees are not employees of the company. They are 1099 sales associates who work on 100% commission, get no salary. They are given no real leads or support from Aflac in terms of how to acquire business. They're in fact told to, look up their friends and family and see if they, at their employer, have contacts that they can use to acquire business.
Can I just say that to me is that's a big red flag to me.
It's like Cutco knives or Amway, or, it's a multi-level marketing scheme.
Right.
Especially because the average Aflac employee sales associate, this entry-level position, lasts less than a year, earns less than $10,000, and leaves the business. And when they leave the business before a year, all of those meager amounts of accounts that they've written go back to the company, and then they just churn in new recruits. So it's almost that the employees are being picked or the recruits are coming in for their contact. And then once those have been exhausted, then the company reaps the benefits of that, and the employee sort of washes out. That seems to be the model here. They are recruited with these very big promises about six-figure salaries. There's this thing called a 10-year income example that it has been presented to recruits that says in the first year you're going to make $125,000. And by the 10th year, you're going to make $250,000. And the reality is that a vanishingly small number of sales associates make that kind of money. It would be based, they in fact revised this after the fact, after they were sort of presented with these allegations. But even what they revised to was a number that 0.1% of all sales associates across the company have ever attained in the course of a calendar year.
Well, I have to say, the part about the bringing the contacts in, that's the way that we do it around here. We hire producers, get their friends to subscribe to the podcast, then we let them go, and then get new producers in, and that's the way we build an audience.
And by the way, it works, and that's why you're a Fortune 500 company just like Aflac.
I mean, continue on with what you're talking about. I mean, I'm just sitting here just sort of like amazed that it's taken this long, right? I mean, Aflac has been around for a long time.
Been around for a long time, and for some reason, people have sort of just endured with this. The sales associates pay for everything because they're not employees. They have to pay for licensing and training. They have to pay for their desk rent, essentially, in the offices where they have to go to work. They pay for travel and expenses. None of that is reimbursed because they're independent contractors. However, the company treats them as if they're employees. They have a hierarchy, a boss. They have mandatory meetings and conference calls that they have to attend. There are open enrollment sessions where they have to attend and do work on behalf of Aflac. When they make cold calls, they have to say, "I'm from Aflac." But they are paid in such a way that they are independent contractors. And this gets into the thing that you were talking about with respect to these tax bill announcements or post-tax bill announcements. Aflac is one of those companies. They announced that they would make additional contributions to employee 401ks, which, sounds good, until you realize that 90% of Aflac's workforce, including the entire sales workforce, are 1099 independent contractors and don't have a 401k because they're not employees.
Basically, we're going to up the 401ks of our C-suite because that's what it sort of sounds like.
Senior executives.
They are.
Well, I tell a story in this article about a lady who is a current employee whose mother called her and said, "Hey, I just saw your CEO on television talking about this increase to the 401k. Isn't that wonderful?" And the woman said, "Mom, I'm a 1099 employee. I don't get any of that." And the mom, who was snookered, said, "Those sons of bitches."
Right.
So this is and believe me, this is a small part of the voluminous amount of allegations against this company. It is not limited to this sales structure, these promises in recruitment, and this misclassification. There's a lot going on here, and this is not going to stop.
And of course, because there are lawsuits about this, and the Aflac executives themselves have not informed shareholders, which you're not supposed to do.
Yes.
I mean, you're supposed to inform them of...
Aflac has not, for over a year, they have known about these allegations since December 10th, 2016. They have known about it. They have not in any way disclosed this to shareholders. They have, in fact, made changes based on the allegations without explanation, including changes to their recruiting process, and have not disclosed that. And there's another point in the story where I mentioned that the president of Aflac, who is a guy named Paul Amos II, who is the grandson of the founder and the son of the current CEO, and was clearly a third-generation person who only ever worked at Aflac, was groomed to take over the company. A month after he was reelected to the board, in June of last year, he abruptly resigns to join a private equity firm in Columbus, Georgia, where Aflac is based. And then 4 days later, he sells off 222,000 shares, all of his stock options, even though he knew of the allegations because they were directly sent to him. And as well as other senior management.
I would suggest it wasn't even though. I would suggest that it was because he knew of the allegations, right? I mean, this guy wanted to get his money out while the getting out was good.
Well, it certainly appears that way, and so that's a whole other part of this thing. And it really doesn't stop there as far as material misrepresentations to investors and potential insider trading. So that's going to be an additional thing that we're going to look at and write about.
How long has this been ongoing? I mean, has all these practices, was there a time where the company changed and they started doing this stuff? And like I say, we're talking about one narrow slice, but was there a time?
I have been in touch with Aflac sales associates, former district managers, and current district managers, former regional sales managers, who've been with the company 10, 15, I think the longest one was 16 years. No one has said there's been any kind of shift. This is kind of how this business has always worked. And that's how several sales, particularly in the insurance industry, is how several of these businesses kind of work. Aflac might be more egregious in some levels. I would actually say so. But this is more common than you think. And it's almost like their franchise. They're all they give to these sales associates are the name Aflac, which has cachet. But they're kind of franchisees without the franchise, right? So they have to. They aren't given really anything in terms of how to get sales, except for this thing called Sales Genie, which is just a phone book. And they're kind of just set off on their own. And it seems that Aflac knows that most of these people will fail. There's a document internally called the Rule of 24 that says out of 24 recruits, only 4 of them are going to end up being keepers. And this is in an internal document to sales coordinators. It says, the other 20 are going to wash out within a year, and we're just going to keep recruiting them and keep recruiting them and keep recruiting them. Clearly, that's at odds with what they say in their recruiting materials. And there's a video that says there's a lot of money to be made at Aflac and things like that. So I think this is probably more normal than abnormal in terms of sales-based industries, particularly the insurance industry. So, but some of the things that are going to come out in the course of this series, I would say, are not normal and
not typical,
and are far less typical. In terms of what's going to be alleged. So as I said, this is the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. Well, people keep an eye out for the Behind the Duck. Let's see.
Behind the Duck.
And
I prefer DuckTales, but what are you going to
The
do?
one thing that does occur to me though is like if you got that type of turnover, right? It's just not worth it for anybody to sort of complain about this stuff. Like, 3 months and then I'm gone and whatever.
And it's certainly not worth it for the district sales, the next couple levels up, for them to complain about it because they're benefiting from it. Because when those people wash out, those accounts stay with Aflac, and then the district coordinator can hold on to them and take the commissions from them ongoing over the course of, the rest of time.
Oh, so they're incentivized. They're incentivized to get these guys out.
In many ways. I mean, they're incentivized certainly not to help.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, and then, of course, we also had a bunch of stories this week where, and I think people are, aware of them. Sam's Club closed 63 stores across the country with all that money that they're saving on taxes. I mean, it's what's amazing to me is that there's not a more, I guess, the story today is Donald Trump is a racist. Like, this is he's now finally a confirmed racist
new thing
until next week, when we'll have, there'll be this sort of like mass.
Until he becomes president again.
Right, exactly. But then I did a 45-minute meeting, so didn't know what I was talking about. But this, one would expect at one point this lie of like, we give tax cuts to businesses and they're going to hire people. At one point, this would get just a little bit more acclaim that it's a lie. And it just seems like this, it keeps happening over and over again. I mean, there's plenty of evidence that where these tax cuts go, right? I mean, we had that moment where Gary Cohn was at that CEO meeting and said, "Who here's going to reinvest their tax cuts?" And nobody raised their hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have enough evidence to know what's going on here. That this is really gaslighting. I mean, this is a textbook example of it. This is disinformation at every level with what these individual corporations are announcing. They fall into several buckets. One is the $1,000 bonus, which is a one-time thing on a permanent corporate tax cut. Number one. Number two, if it was done in 2017, it's a deduction that is larger than what would be done in 2018. So watch when the 2018 bonus doesn't show up, because the 2017 bonus was cheaper, because it's at it would be a deduction as a business expense at the 35% corporate tax rate, not the 21% tax rate we have today. Number three, it's normally used to offset other things that are going on. For example, Comcast announced a $1,000 bonus, and at the same time cut 500 jobs out of their sales force. AT&T announced a $1,000 bonus, at the same time cut thousands of jobs, probably around 4,000 across their network, including fairly high-paid technicians. Wells Fargo announced an increase of their minimum salary to $15 an hour, which sounds great, except their spokesman said initially this had nothing to do with the tax bill, and then changed his mind a day later. And what we found out today is that Wells Fargo is closing 450 branches. What you just mentioned with Walmart's was even sneakier, because it was a $1,000 bonus they announced, but it was only $1,000 if you had worked at the company 20 years. The average bonus would be something like $190, I think. And they, at the same time, announced these 63 closures of Sam's Club stores without notice at all. The workers showed up and the doors were locked. They also announced their increase in pay to the minimum wage to $11 an hour, which is almost a direct reaction to Target announcing their increase. This is a competitor to them, which they compete with for personnel and the ability to retain staff at the company. So these things are just empty promises. They are ways to distract and deflect and curry favor with Donald Trump. It is corporate America and the Republican Party getting together to provide disinformation to the American public.
And that's becoming, I mean, there seems to be a full on, I mean, I don't know, it didn't take too long, but people know, right? Like, this is the way you want to flatter Donald Trump, and in some way, and it still gets picked up. I mean, these things, they're not really, it seems to me, there's not a tremendous amount of scrutiny raised by these announcements. Which I have to say, I mean, we also had a bonus, incidentally, around here, doing $5,000.
Oh, what was that?
$5,000 bonus for anybody who's been working here for 10 years. So
there you go. That is generous of you.
Yep.
Let me just say.
Yep.
And you know, I think it's nice that you're using the obvious bounty that you're getting from the tax bill.
Yep.
And your ability to shelter income. And giving it back to the people who've worked so hard.
That's right.
So
right.
Thank you on behalf of America. Thank you.
That's right. And of course, there's also another bonus for people who've been working here 7 years. I mean, the good news is I'm going to be getting all the bonuses. I'm eligible for all the bonuses. It's nice.
Oh, well, that's nice. I mean, that's for you personally. I think that's nice. In addition to
it works out. It works out
providing
nicely
to your large staff.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about this week. There were two big things this week. You had the reauthorization of FISA, where essentially it was reauthorized for another 6 years. I think it ultimately passed with about 20 Democratic votes in the House, right? These are ostensibly people who are very nervous about Donald Trump having any type of authority. Never mind this type of authority. It loosened, or I should say, increased the ability of the FBI to spy on us without any warrant. And another 6 years. I mean, I remember when the first FISA, right? It was just like, this is going to be temporary, that type of stuff.
And how many Democrats supported that in the House? Something like 55, right?
No, I think that was my 55 were the ones who shot down an amendment by Amash. My understanding is that it was closer to like, well, maybe it was 55, but it was somewhere between 25 and 55. I was trying to figure out
a significant number. I know my colleague Alex Emmons at the Intercept wrote about this, and one thing that he noted was that the flyers that were being passed around in the House were, I mean, the kinds of things that you would expect to see, like in a House race in South Carolina, taped to your windshield, with pictures of terrorists and saying these people would have been caught if it wasn't, wouldn't have been caught if it wasn't for 702, which is the section of the FISA bill that they want to renew. Just really ugly stuff that was used to try to pass this thing. And for Democrats to succumb to that was pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, and I would imagine these are examples of what we're going to be putting on cards in your district if you don't vote for it. But the ability for some of these folks to hold these two disparate, I guess, positions, right? That one, we're really worried about, the government having these powers. We should have thought about it we're not going to get Obama every time, as if Obama was, any more sparing with those uses. But that's the perspective, right? Obama's only doing it for real bad guys, but Donald Trump could be. And there's just doesn't seem to be any connection. And in many respects,
and sadly, I really don't think that this will change. When another partisanship seemingly is much, more important in these cases than actually holding executives accountable for the power that they control. And during the Obama administration, the sort of civil libertarian strain of the Democratic Party went kind of mute in the party apparatus, the politicians, I'm saying, not necessarily the outside groups, but it really just sort of went limp in addressing these issues of executive overreach and executive power. And now they're all stunned by the amount of power that Donald Trump is able to accrue, and it's kind of, you, Dad, I learned it from watching you.
And I should say that it's elected leaders, but also just a lot of people, right? There was a lot more people back in 2006, 2005, who were just outraged at the idea that George W. Bush would be spying on Americans, and then it was like, oh well, I mean, Obama's going to be good with it. It's all good when Obama had it. I mean, that's I guess an ongoing problem,
right? And I mean, didn't we know this even before Obama was elected? Didn't he vote for the FISA extension after saying that he wouldn't?
Yep. All right. Well, I mean, I guess this is something that's going to depend on how far out we get from 9/11. We're now 17 years out.
I think it should be at this point. That's not the issue.
But what do you think keeps driving it? Is it just like there's a natural inertia?
Well, it's first of all, there's a bias towards.
I mean, if Donald Trump is not going to break that inertia, what is?
Right. The story that doesn't get reported is, actually there were a record low number of terrorist attacks in the United States and throughout the country in this calendar year. That story doesn't get reported. And the story that gets reported is there was a terrorist attack. And nobody wants to be at the helm when that story gets reported.
Right.
And so, the intelligence community has a lot of means at their disposal to say you don't want to be the one who gets caught when this goes bad. And there's also just basic lobbying going on. There's a lot of the intelligence community is certainly has the ear of Congress to a significant degree.
All right, and lastly, let's just touch on immigration. Broadly speaking, it's been in the news in a multitude of different ways. What is your sense? I mean, are you hearing anything about where the Democrats are going to end up on this, particularly things like DACA
Well, there's an agreement that's on the table, right? It's from the Senate. But it appears that Republicans in the House are, and certainly Donald Trump, haven't really agreed to it. What's interesting is that I don't think rank and file Democrats, certainly not the ones in the Congressional Black Caucus or Hispanic Caucus, are that keen on it either.
What is the nature of that agreement?
Neither side. The nature of the agreement is that there would be a path to citizenship for the DACA kids. But in addition, it would not only increase border security and give some money for fencing and things like that, but it would make changes to the chain migration, quote unquote, program, as well as the visa lottery. It wouldn't necessarily lower immigration numbers in the legal process, but it would change the nature of those systems. And, there are many Democrats who think that goes way too far, that if we're making changes to those legal immigration systems, we should do that in the context of comprehensive immigration reform and not as part of a deal giving that away to, get the DACA situation dealt with.
And when does this, I mean, there's no deadline per se on the immigration stuff, right? It's just a question of whether or not this is going to get roped into.
Well, there is. I mean, there's a deadline with regards to DACA, which is supposed to be done by March.
Right.
Certainly, because we have a January 19th deadline for appropriations to keep the government funded, DACA has been at the forefront of those talks. And so you can sort of see a soft deadline by January 19th, which is why they're trying so hard to get that done. And there's a lot of fear that there's going to be sort of an unpalatable compromise put together here with the support of Senate Democrats. But I'm not sure that the deal as structured could pass the House, especially if House Democrats reject it.
Right. All right. Well, David Dayen, thank you so much. We will keep our eyes out for your DuckTales pieces over at the Intercept, and really appreciate your coming on today.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye. All right, folks. We're going to take a slight musical interlude, and Michael's going to step in and call Matthew Film Guy, because as you can tell, I am under the weather, as it were. So on Monday, just a programming note, we will be replaying at least portions of what we don't replay the exact thing each year. We sort of mix it up, and we may, but just various clips recognizing, celebrating Martin Luther King Day. Just an array of clips that we've collected over the years, and we may add in some LBJ tapes, right, Matt? Possibly. We'll see. Total millennial. And we will not be live on Monday. We will return live on Tuesday, and I will too, assuming that I am better. All right, we're going to take a quick musical break, and when we return, Michael Brooks will be sitting here.
bugging out about a couple, 2, 3 things. Picked up my microphone and started to sing. I was feeling worse than the words come out. Fell on some keys, then this song walked out of me. Lost my head, decided we liked it there. Lost my
Welcome back to the Majority Report. Michael Brooks here, pinch hitting midway through for Sam as I try to keep this mic at a safe distance and not get the plague. And joining us now is friend of the show, a guy with a very sophisticated taste in film, but not exactly music, as you can hear from his theme song.
Matthew the Film Guy is choosing your streams. Cast of weddings on Netflix and other such themes. Maybe I'll watch one and learn a few things. Please recommend me a movie to stream. Matthew, please recommend me a movie to stream.
Matthew, did you commission that song yourself?
Reached out to a friend of mine who is a little-known musical genius named Jason Pace, and yeah, he came up with that. I didn't necessarily give him any direction, just that I needed a Film Guy theme song, and he knew that I had a deep, abiding love for Metallica. That's what he and I used to play when we were in a little basement band back in the days, and yeah, he rocked it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say something, Sam.
Excuse me.
When, hello?
Hello.
Yes, hi, Sam. This is Sam, right?
Sue everybody.
You cannot sit there and disparage the entire genre of heavy metal just because you may not find my theme to your liking.
No, I like your theme. I actually think your theme is my favorite piece of heavy metal music I've ever heard.
Oh yeah,
like not even.
That's also disparaging. Matthew.
Yeah, exactly.
I like heavy metal. That's also disparaging. I'm aware that was the point.
Real quick, Matt, before you say that, can I just remind you of the amazing collaboration between Anthrax and Public Enemy circa 1991? Okay? Thank you. Matt, you may now continue.
I'm surprised you haven't played that for me in one of our listening parties, Matthew.
We're still in the late 80s. We're working our way up.
Okay. That's true. We are.
Well, Matthew, as you may know, I also produce Right Wing Mandela's radio show, and I've been looking for right-wing metal sort of to fill out the playlist there. So if you have any sort of knowledge of that, just don't be afraid to forward that along to me.
I don't necessarily own any of it, but I certainly know that there's plenty of white supremacist metal groups out there, so you can find.
We're not exactly. I don't know if Mr. Mandela exactly wants white supremacist. I think he's still in the plausible deniability phase. You know,
right?
Yeah. So anything there.
We had what did we play?
There's some Christian metal. Do you want Christian metal? That exists.
That might be a little weak.
I think it has to be closer to the white supremacist.
Yeah, I think it's going to need to be closer on the white supremacist. What did we play the other? It was for the last show. What was it? It was like Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah, 5 Finger Death Punch.
And the song was what was the song name?
It was like American Patriot or something.
It was like American Capitalist or something.
Oh yeah, American Capitalist.
And what was so funny was that when we were writing this sketch and picking the song out, I'm so this is where I'm in my bubble and Matt's like, yeah, no, this will be good, and the song's called like American Capitalist, and I was like, yeah, but that's cool, but shouldn't Mandela have like a right wing show, a right wing song? And Matt was like, it is. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, American Capitalist is obviously like defamatory.
I think you can actually, as much as I love Metallica, their politics aren't necessarily the most progressive. The music is more progressive than the politics, but there's plenty of Metallica songs whose theme may apply to a right-wing Mandela.
Wait, Metallica? Does Metallica even have politics?
Oh, yeah. In fact, they substituted politics for any other kind of meaningful emotional expression for the first, 3 albums. I mean, the first album is more like, metal up your ass. Then the second one is just like
Search and Destroy, or Seek and Destroy.
Yeah,
metal up your ass.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just I think hit the lights and have a party and do that stuff. Then by the second one, they started to talk about, suicide and capital punishment and, dying in different ways.
Wow.
And then by the
Nobody
third
has
one, it
any
was
time
just
for that.
drugs and Justice for All that's like Noam Chomsky meets, I don't know, it's some sort of Nietzsche kind of ideology, and it's all about the halls of justice painted green with money talking. You have to do that.
Megadeth is also right wing, from what I've seen.
Oh yeah, Megadeth is extremely right wing.
Well,
yeah.
I think Jamie's itching to get in here because you guys all share a sort of similar attraction to my parents won't let me take out the car music. So I'm not really in on this, but go ahead. Yes, Jamie, your thoughts on Metallica?
Please.
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I was just going to bring up that Maynard James Keenan from Tool has also expressed some questionable political opinions, which, I don't know why I was that surprised, but I was still like, oh, man, let's talk more rock, dude.
But actually,
Tool,
it's
I'm not a Tool fan. I did go to a Tool show once, and I left before they came on because I was just there to see Phantom.
Not a Tool fan, but are a Tool. Boom, Allahu Akbar.
Yes, thank you, Obama.
But wait, this is actually.
I want to like Tool, I really do, but I just don't.
You don't have to.
But serious
Different
question.
No one
different
has
things.
to, but.
Yeah, I don't like Tool and feel worries
I've
about
made
it.
attempts to.
Well, I'm sure Tool appreciates it.
Maybe for less of a Tool,
They
you get
saw
it.
me. I literally bought a ticket to see them at Madison Square Garden because Mike Patton's supergroup, made up of members of the Melvins and Mr. Bungle and Slayer, opened for them, and it was one of the most amazing opening acts I've ever seen.
Ooh.
And then I left.
That Mike Patton is in everything.
What was the show that we went to?
He is in
Matthew?
everything.
You dragged me
Oh,
to
I
some
took
metal
you to
show.
see. I took you to see Rocket from the Crypt, and then you didn't even stay for the main act.
I had to go. I got into the pit I chest bumped with a bunch of white people. What more do you want from me? I did it.
Yeah, but you couldn't commit. You couldn't commit.
Well, there was
San Diego's greatest rock group.
There was a dance hall party that I was late for. That's
true.
But actually, this raises an interesting question, and maybe we could get to some of the Chappelle stuff because people have asked me about it. But I just pretty much like. I think that there's nothing. I understand. I don't think it's in any way invalid to question the politics first and foremost of a work of art, and I don't think it's in any way invalid to be aware of the personality around the creator and what they do. But I just have zero. There's tons of cultural products that I enjoy and might even find like really insightful by people that have politics that I just I just totally disagree with.
Sure.
I think the idea that you would use a political metric to determine your cultural intake, I actually think is. Not only do I disagree with it, I actually think it's a very, very bad approach for
I agree.
how to engage
completely
in the
agree.
battle, basically.
Well, it depends how much the politics are in the work of art.
No, but even that, sometimes the work. Well, I think this actually brings to another. Well, let me get Matthew's thoughts on that part first, but I think then we'll get to Chappelle in the second, because I think that there's also very different ways that things show up in the work. But at any rate, what were you going to say, Matthew?
Well, I just think it's a continuum. It's like Jamie is saying. It
Right.
depends on a lot of things. If one of the first things you learn in film school is about Leni Riefenstahl, right? And you're still studying her because of the technical and artistic innovation she made, but you keep an eye on it because you realize that it was done in service of a genocidal agenda. So it doesn't necessarily remove the value of the aesthetic kind of qualities, but it puts a very serious asterisk by it.
Well, I mean, that's an extreme example.
Well,
so
yeah,
I would say
but still,
yes.
But
okay.
That's one end of the spectrum, right?
Literal
on one end,
Nazi
you have
propaganda
Nazis.
that's well
On the other hand-
constructed is a right. And I agree with you. You could still watch it and actually learn. I mean, yeah, you could learn camera techniques or whatever. I haven't watched.
Don't just say camera techniques or whatever to a film guy.
Camera tech. Yeah, I learned a lot from watching Leni Riefenstahl. It was too long.
A lot of good camera techniques.
A lot of good. And why would you want to spend so much time in the Swiss Alps when you could be getting peed on?
You guys
Berlin?
just write your scripts or whatever, and you talk it out. You make up little skits. That's what you do, right? No, that's not. That's not what we do.
Ooh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But no, I think though, I don't know. Have you seen the new Chappelle specials?
Yeah, I watched them. Mary and I both watched them with a keen eye towards his politics and what's going on in the world.
Right.
Do you have a question for me?
Well, I mean, basically, I have some pretty strong opinions on these on the last two that just came out. I think the ones that came out earlier this year, I really liked, because there is just some level that it's kind of like how he joked in the last special. It's like he is just one of the best people on the planet at doing comedy just as like a craft, right? So there is absolutely a part of everything that is just sort of technical. And even his sort of like, it's like the Nas lyric, like your best success is my worst blunder. Like Dave Chappelle doing.
Well, let me ask you this, Michael.
But the last
let me ask you this.
The last two that just came out, I actually thought were exceptional. Like I thought they were really good. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, look, I laughed my ass off at both of them, and I was sitting next to Mary, who's very motivated around the watershed moment that we're having here. She's worked in comedy,
right?
As a waitress in comedy clubs for years. She's been at the receiving end of all kinds of disgusting behavior.
She shared some of those stories with me. I mean, not in detail, but I mean, way before this came out, of course, yeah.
But in addition to that, she's listened to some of the world's greatest comedians over and over and over for many hours at a time, right, doing the same bits.
Right.
So her take on comedy is like with a real sharp insider's ear. And she said something to me that really struck me. Like even that first, is it the first one where it ends with, and I kicked her in the pussy? Like that.
Oh, dude, you just totally spoiled it.
No, I didn't. That's his. Oh, okay. Yeah, you got me.
Well, you totally did, but it's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
No. But she, okay, sorry, spoiler alert. But she saw that coming a mile away.
And that's what Daenerys says at the end of the last season of Game of Thrones. It's done. Sorry, everybody. Edit it.
And Darth Vader is Luke's father. Everybody on the same page now. Let's continue.
Yeah.
But
and he kicked the Emperor in the pussy.
But so I think there's actually some seam showing in his craft in these last two a little bit. That's what I got.
What showing?
Some seams.
The
gears turning a little bit, because I know that second one was not even meant to, it was like a surprise taping.
Right.
And that's really the most, out there one. That's the one where he says what I think is an interesting comment, that you have to talk recklessly as an artist. And I think that's totally true. But it also means that when you do talk recklessly, your audience can go like, yeah, that one didn't really work for me. A joke.
Yeah,
it's all about jokes, but if the premise doesn't necessarily fly, then the joke is not that funny.
Well, here's the thing that I would say though, in that context, that I think people miss me a lot in these kind of conversations, because there's one, there's like the people who are like, it's a joke, you can't critique it, can't say anything, and that's the kind of typical reactionary, like it's a joke, blah blah blah. And so of course, anybody could critique or not find anything. Dave Chappelle, we're talking about him, that's fine. I mean, everything is ripe for critique and analysis. What I have noticed, at least with regards to him, and somebody asked me the other day, like when Jerry Seinfeld complains that his lame, like the gay king, like that joke,
right.
Like why don't people think that's funny? And it's like, I actually think part of why people don't think it's funny is that yes, he's just doing like lazy homophobia, but honestly, sometimes like people will laugh, frankly, at like I think the other unsettling thing about comedy is that there is comedy that is totally socially irredeemable, which I would argue Chappelle still is socially redeemable. There's comedy that's totally socially irredeemable and funny.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's this whole notion that, it's not funny, and this whole punch down and up thing, I don't really buy from like a comedy perspective. But you can totally say, like, look, Jerry, you're just doing like, lame homophobic crap, in addition to the fact that like, you're actually pretty boring as a comedian, right? Like you're just dull. You just sort of complain about airplane food. I mean, who cares, right? So,
I think that's a mischaracterization.
Well,
I'm not his biggest fan, but I think that's a little bit reductive of what he does.
Well, that's fair. We can get to that. But I think that the distinction that I would see in a lot of write-ups with Chappelle that have complained about his material, I have seen very few that when I get very hesitant, it kind of reminds me of like, in some ways, like people's response to Cornel West with a lot of things, which is that they isolate explosive lines that he's delivered, and then they kind of fixate on this is so problematic, and they never have an overall stitched together critique of what he's actually doing in the routine, which actually, like, in these specials is definitely saying some reckless things, definitely saying some things that I, in fact, actually disagree with, definitely, but then actually always getting to a point that is in fact very humane and generally, like, you know, if we want to take it in that lens, politically on the right side of things. And then, you know, more importantly, actually very honest, very open, and in some cases deeply funny. And I agree with you that the seams are showing, but I also think some of the things he's done is the best he's ever done. I mean, that whole thing on Iceberg Slim and the Capitalist Manifesto, I mean, that's kind of mind-blowing to see up on stage from anybody, including, you know, people that I have very high standards of.
Yeah, look, like I said, I laughed at like 85% of the entire thing. I still find him funny and stuff, but it's, this is a moment that I think all well-intended human beings need to kind of ask themselves, like, am I laughing at it or am I laughing with it? You know, there's a kind of you know, like, there's nothing to be lost by examining where we find the things funny that we find funny, you know? And I'll never not laugh at, what's that?
We should examine always. I mean, that's why I'm a partisan of the film guy school.
Look, I'll never not laugh at the Jerky Boys, no matter how disgusting or kind of reductive their humor is about, like, torturing people. That's funny to me. I'm sorry. It just is. And if it's, you know, socially irredeemable on some level, I think, you know, there is something socially redeemable about at least letting out a laugh, at least finding some way to not be serious about some things, you know, releasing attention that way. But with what Chappelle was addressing, it has wider implications. You know, it has more applications to not just comedy and art and film and TV, but like literally the moment, the political moment that we live in. So
I thought what the Jerky Boys did on album 4, where Frank Rizzo called up the plumber and said that his fucking Rottweiler wouldn't let him get to his fridge, I thought that had the deepest critique of the commodification.
I believe you're thinking of the piano tuner on the first album, Michael.
The piano tuner, I think, was actually really a very subtle critique of NAFTA.
Yeah,
a lot of people. Yeah, right. It was about the loss of manufacturing jobs. Yeah, I totally hear you.
No, that's the painter. That's the painter. Is the loss of manufacturing.
That actually really is the loss of manufacturing jobs. My only other thing I'd say is I do think there's some element to me that is just like, I don't know, seeing hot takes by people who aren't funny and or, you know, not like. Yeah, it's like, really, you really feel comfortable doing this assessment of Dave Chappelle?
Talent,
like you're doing, and you've taken a block of the material outside, and you're going to present it, and it's kind of funny because it's like if you watch it in its totality, I wouldn't say like, oh, that isn't still potentially a problem and potentially worthy of critique and thought and the reflection you're talking about. But the way it's presented is so crude and dumb and misleading of like an art piece, frankly, by people who seem like, you know, it's just kind of lazy, unfunny clickbait. And I just think, again, it's a bad look.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't give any credence to that kind of stuff. But for my own take, I do feel like some of these comedians, like Chappelle, as great as he's been, like Seinfeld, as great as he's been, even Chris Rock, these guys.
We want to call Seinfeld great, huh? Wow.
Well, you know, at what he does, at his kind of minutia, kind of surface level.
You get yogurt, and it's not in the can. Did you see the pictures
people, but wait, let me finish this little point here, because I'm sure you'll have a response.
Okay.
Then you can do your gay Seinfeld voice. But
it's not a gay Seinfeld voice.
I think some of these people are being passed by, you know, and maybe even we are, you know, so the tides are changing a little bit, and so I just think that there is something to be said for that. Maybe Chappelle is caught in it. You know, he's so self-sustaining, and they'll give him $60 million for just whatever he wants to say, that he can say these things and still get up on Netflix. You know what I mean? Like, whereas I don't know if anybody else would necessarily pass through the sort of cultural gatekeepers with that kind of shit anymore.
Well, it depends which cultural gatekeepers we're talking about. I think another thing that's really forgotten in some of these conversations is that it seems to me, and I know, you know, and again, it's absolutely attention, but someone like Bill Burr and Chris Rock have both used this formulation that for comedy you need to be allowed to be in the wrong place. Like you need to be able to be wrong to get to the right place. Is the way they formulated it.
Totally.
I
totally
have no doubt that at the when the end result of those routines is in fact a condemnation of sexual violence, is in fact, I mean, even in the last one, like Chappelle's like, if you want to like attack trans people, then you're a piece of shit and don't watch my stuff. Like, to me, for a certain market, his process of getting there, that's going to be more persuasive than just like, the right position that you should already have. But if we're being real, a lot of people don't have that position. And I think, so I think that there is a lot more
fuck
room.
Those people, Michael.
Yeah. well, exactly. And there's a lot of people, and I think that is a very interesting split right now, that, there's some sectors where we get righter and righter and righter and woker and roker and roker, and that has huge advantages. It has some Al Roker and some big disadvantages in some ways. And then there's like, obviously, we also have, the most overtly racist president since, I guess, actually, even before Johnson or Nixon. Although I find it annoying that people say like, I've never heard a president speak like this in the Oval Office. And it's like, we literally have tapes of Nixon and Johnson.
Yeah, we have tapes.
Stuff.
Matt, cue the tapes.
Yeah, exactly. But
I mean, can I just jump in here?
Please.
Like, I'm just catching up on some of the jokes right now, and some of them are pretty unfunny.
But again, you must absolutely watch the whole show.
Okay,
you really do.
I can watch the whole show.
Let the woman speak, Michael.
But I mean, people are allowed to be complicated, and I can like Dave Chappelle for all of the smart shit that he says and all of the politically good stuff that he says, and then also criticize him for places I think he needs to do better.
Is just like of course. I just think
I feel like a lot of people on both sides
what
of
else
this don't
is there
really
to
get
say
that.
there, Michael? What else is there to say?
No, my point is a lot. So even when you go online and you say, and we find jokes of Chappelle, I know that it's like, I have no doubt, Jamie, if you watch the whole specials, you will still find stuff that you totally object to and should criticize him on. But you will, like, those jokes are contextual. And doing like some dumb write-up in HuffPost where it's like, can you believe Dave Chappelle said this? And you're not actually representing the routine is humorless and lazy and ripped from context. And I find it annoying. Now that and much more difficult to actually take on.
Might I be Michael? Might I be detecting just a slight bit of defensiveness about your hero Dave Chappelle?
Sure, I'd be willing to assess that, but also literally, it's true. But at any rate,
I just want to say, like, I love Dave Chappelle, probably not as much as you, but I think some of the context, even still, the context is people are just too sensitive, man. And so be it, like we said, he can go wrong. But I think it's accurate to say that even his context is also a little bit, quote unquote, problematic.
Sure. Well, that's why, but I look forward to hearing that critique, not the,
Yes.
I found something.
Well, you just heard it. You just heard it.
And I hear it.
Right here. Matthew Film Guy.
Matthew Film Guy.
At Langdon Boom.
I have to say.
At Langdon Boom.
But let's get to a much more serious thing than Dave Chappelle. You're a Jerry Seinfeld defender. In addition to Jerry's boring material, did you see the pictures of him
Why do you hate my friend?
touring with IDF guys and looking at Israeli assault dogs?
Oh yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, so while Dave Chappelle,
but you know what that is, Michael?
Dave Chappelle didn't hang out with an apartheid guy.
He doesn't give a shit. What's that? Sorry.
I said Dave Chappelle didn't. If Dave Chappelle socialized with like an apartheid security guard, I would give him heat for that.
Apart from the bombs that they strap, I don't know what makes them tick.
Oh my God! Look at this picture. Oh my God,
what
he's such a doofus. Jesus,
oh
this guy literally. This guy he's next to.
Not in.
Just probably like broke like a Palestinian kid's arm yesterday
in the vest or whatever.
Jesus.
Yep.
I mean, we were talking about
what's
this on
the deal
Twitter.
with apartheid?
We we were talking about this on Twitter.com, I think yesterday. If
I love that
if
website.
if we, like us here on the left, could not enjoy entertainment products made by people whose politics are garbage, we would enjoy basically nothing.
Basically nothing. And Noam Chomsky is not funny.
Oh, God. He's like committed to not being funny.
Like the movie Idiocracy, someone was talking about how it's actually got pretty bad politics and making a sort of weirdly unmaterialist kind of neoliberal, almost eugenicist argument.
Totally a eugenicist
and
argument.
I was like, yes, and I enjoyed it for its entertainment
I've always had
value
an easy
and also
time with that
garbage.
one. I've had an easy time with that one.
I love that
hate
movie, but yeah, it's like, why
it.
are all the dumb fucks in the trailers procreating? Is basically the theory of that movie. Horrible.
Pretty much. And I can also listen to Burzum and appreciate the mise en scène. So it's,
yeah, but I also
it's complicated.
I think it does
Wait,
affect
are
it though.
are
like,
Burzum like white supremacists? I wasn't.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
they're like
So,
Nordic.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah, that guy wants me
Oh,
dead
boy.
for sure.
but like Rammstein,
oh my god!
I've heard
but he's got
are like
such a great singing voice.
I've heard Rammstein are closet liberals, and it made me appreciate the music more than I maybe would have if they were actually right wing. Though, like I think it does affect the margins, like just keeping it to politics. Like I don't know, Oasis. That they were close with Tony Blair. Kind of like I don't know that would be that big of a Oasis fan anyway. But I don't know.
But that was all.
Again,
that was
it's
late
the spectrum.
'90s cool Britannia. A lot of people got roped into
But
that
it colors
garbage.
it, right? Like
of course
it
does.
doesn't make me not listen to Don't Look Back in Anger, but it makes me think of Tony Blair when I listen to Don't Look Back in Anger.
Rammstein was in that Adam Curtis movie, weren't they? Where he talks about how they're like reappropriating fascist imagery and using it for catharsis.
Which one was that? I'm not sure. I haven't seen them all, but
No, I
that'd
haven't
be,
seen that one.
something he would
That
tackle.
does sounds interesting.
Or maybe it was, I'm sorry, it was Slavoj Žižek. I got it wrong.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
I just did a
When are we going
visual.
to have Slavoj Žižek and Mike Cernovich have a debate online? See who can speak.
You need like waterproof mic technology.
That would be so great. And you know what would be awesome is that Zizek would just be incorporating Cernovich into his like critique and story the whole time. Like, yes, this is. He would just like explain how everything Cernovich was doing was an expression of the phase of capital we were at, and Cernovich would be like, "Yeah, that's why there's on Twitter sex pizza." What a damaged guy. Do you have any? I do have. I'm sure you probably didn't even watch it, but do you have any Golden Globe thoughts, Film Guy Matthew?
God, no.
Yeah. Do you find it a little like? Is it a little amazing? Like, I mean, beating up on Hollywood is kind of cliche and boring, but I do find,
and yet,
so alluring. No, I watched a few minutes. I actually like Seth Meyers, and as Tim Black pointed out, like, we got Seth Meyers over here. So like, you know, Seth Meyers is obviously great. But you know, with Oprah, I watched, and even though like I'm not, you know, of course I'm not interested in this Oprah nonsense. She actually, I did watch her speech. She gave a good speech, right? But I did find,
yeah, it was
like,
a good speech for the Golden Globes.
Golden Globes, but
you know, it's where
is
people
something...
self-congratulate each other all night, giving each other sloppy kisses and saying how great we are and brave we are.
And didn't you find it kind of weird though? Like, I guess not weird. I guess it's to be expected, but it is amazing that like an industry that literally, like, Harvey Weinstein set off this moment, and every day there's stories, you know, like not even like just. That they could go so quickly from like this is happening to already congratulating themselves about how well they've handled it.
Yeah,
when it's like really
we solved it. Yeah.
Did you
we
see
tweeted a few things and yeah.
Rose McGowan?
Sorry, Jimmy?
Rose McGowan just criticized the Time's Up people for doing an event with CAA, who she believes were the talent agency that she believes was complicit.
Oh, I believe her.
In
I believe her.
Weinstein's.
I believe everything that Rose McGowan has said. You know, she's was inside enough to know it all and had enough of it happen to herself that I take her word on all this crap. And of course, what is the CAA supposed to do in this moment? Go, no, we're going to defend sexual harassment. No, they immediately try to get out in front of it in a PR move and make it their thing. It's just as gross as anything. You know, it's the society of the spectacle, right? What did mosquito boards say that the spectacle just absorbed any critique of itself.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing. It's maddening. It's gross, but there it is.
Oh,
All we can do is stay aware of it.
I wrote a piece about that very thing in The Guardian this week about that. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, about the co-opting
I just was quoting
of
it.
the...
I just ripped it off.
the co-opting of the Me Too movement by corporate America, whether that's these talent agencies that are trying to make themselves look good, random male celebrities who want to see woke, or these startups by entrepreneurs who want to tackle the problem in a very capital-friendly kind of way.
I also,
that has to be happening. I'll just say at least it's better than total silence, probably, but it's only marginally so.
Film Guy Matthew, I'm sure that you were, though, avidly watching the Globes because you were so impressed by the film output of this year.
I've seen not a single one of the best film nominations. I really want to see Lady Bird because I've been a fan of Greta Gerwig since back in her Joe Swanberg days when they first were coming out together.
I don't know what any of that means.
I had a class with her boyfriend in college, claim to fame.
Oh, really? Who was her boyfriend?
Yeah, we're
then?
basically friends. A guy named Chris. Nice guy.
I don't know. I heard pretty bad things about Chris. Why do we let people like Chris into the country?
Well, I'm rooting for her. I just haven't got a chance to see that one yet. So that's the only real disappointment I had about any of the Golden Globe films.
Did you see the new Star Wars?
Yes, I did. It's my duty as a culturally programmed stooge of the machine to go see anything with a lightsaber in it.
So what did you think? Yes, no, maybe so.
Maybe so. It's just like all the recent reboots of every property that you're culturally programmed genetically to see because you loved it as a child. You go in, you're like, yeah, I can't wait for this. It's that same thing I used to love when it made me feel so great when I was a kid. And then it's got like 3 or 4 references to things that you really get turned on by. Like I teared up when, spoiler alert, appeared on screen. There were some things that really...
Film Guy Matthew turned on at Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. No, teared up. But, there was plenty of emotional reactions to it. And then you leave and you're kind of like, yeah, well, why did they? And what about? And how?
You start talking like Seinfeld? What about? Why? What are lightsabers? Was that an indirect recognition of Palestinians as human beings? And where were the gay royalty jokes?
The best part was the sort of pseudo kind of proletariat politics comments in this one scene in the middle where they kind of go to like a gilded Monaco type place. That was, I thought, an interesting little nod to politics in the real world. But it's confection. It's cotton candy. There's nothing to it. And it's just complete escapism, but not even in a way that... my pet theory, which I probably have said it before, is that somewhere around the 80s, Hollywood started to figure out that they don't have to try that hard on like a artistic level to make something that will make $1 billion.
Well, wait, wasn't that just Jaws and Star Wars? Wasn't that basically what they learned? Like in the 70s, they were like, wait, they throw the keys to these young people and do great, interesting things. And then Jaws and Star Wars, they're like, oh, word?
You look at what won all the awards up until then, and they were like pretty good, actually, like human being movies about like adult themes. They weren't always the most artistic films compared to like world cinema, but they were like, you had to be kind of emotionally mature to get them. Then they just started to skew lower and lower and lower. And look, I go see these superhero movies and I get what I get out of them, but it's become this kind of self-licking ice cream cone. You get the kids to get the toys when they're young, and then by the time they're 42, they're still spending $20 to go see their toys fly around on the screen.
Did you kind of notice there was this funny way? I didn't see it. It was just when I had an opportunity to see it. It was honestly, we were on break and it was just too cold. Like it was useless. I'm not going to go out in that kind of weather to go see Star Wars. But it was funny. It seemed like it kind of also was becoming a proxy. Like and this has happened the last couple of ones. There's definitely like, there's a woman in it, you ruined my childhood. But this time, there was that kind of like.
I refer you to my. Sorry.
No, but there was also, then it became for other people, seemed like it was sort of like almost like a proxy, like, the Russians and Trump don't want you to see this empowered woke Star Wars, and then it was just, it seemed like,
God, can they both lose?
well, that's what I mean. Like just the stakes of stupidity, like the sides that we would like to both see lose, like the pseudo woke corporate morons, and then the, alt-right shut-in racists, that this became another battleground. When really it's just what you were saying before. It's just another self-looking ice cream cone. And all these companies are merging together.
I refer you, Michael, to my earlier statement. Fuck those people.
Yep. Fair enough. Matthew?
I think we give them too much credit to even take those critiques, to heart. You know what I'm saying?
Which one? The both of them.
The woman's in my thing, and
Right.
they ruined my childhood and all that. Come on. Your childhood was already ruined, guys, okay?
Yeah,
Just
if that
take a
was
break.
your highlight, I mean, you got bigger beef that you got to figure out with a therapist than
exactly
what other British actress they stuck a lightsaber into. So what?
And by the way, I'm all for the female Doctor Who.
I don't even know. Again, I don't know what any of this means.
I know. I just tried to blow your mind with that one. Go on. You were going to say.
Film Guy Matthew, what recommendation? Although, actually, no, I have one real quick question about that. Do you think that, so there's also talk that, the next James Bond will be a woman? And the thing that I'm just wondering, though, is, and this is a bigger question, why also not just, start taking a break from some of these franchises and do something new? Too.
Michael, what
have
part of
a
cash
super.
Don't you like? What part of money don't you understand?
Is that really? It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. We don't have to look too deep to understand the motivations of Hollywood.
Right.
They're a cash printing organization.
Right.
Yeah, it's MMT.
Sorry.
No, it makes total sense. That's the great.
They're like bitcoins, only you have to watch them.
And you can't revolutionize your financial life by having a gamer computer that produces films. Yeah,
perhaps.
I mean that's actually the kind of great thing about having a good materialist understanding about politics is it requires so much work, but then on the other hand, you can always see it's just yup, money. So Matthew,
money changes everything. Come on, sing with me,
including your neurons. It's true.
It's true.
What film do you recommend that we see, Film Guy Matthew? What's on the docket?
Okay, I've got really a major recommendation and then a minor one. I just showed in my senior citizens film appreciation class a film that actually I think I should have looked this up first, but I think won some awards. At least Maggie Smith did as the lead actress. A film that is really about the cult of personality, the ability for teachers to shape young minds, the ways in which heroes in general are problematic. And maybe you can think about Dave Chappelle while you watch this, Michael. But there are, I think, themes in this movie that are only getting more relevant. But it's also ambiguous, so it's not something that's going to preach to you necessarily. And that's the minor one. That is called The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. And it's basically about a woman who's a teacher, kind of a bohemian type teacher in the 30s, pre-World War II at a British private school, actually a Scottish private school in Edinburgh. And she's like one of these teachers that I'm sure everybody here has had, who really sparks the imagination of the kids, who's really like a charismatic person, makes you want to, listen to what she's saying, exposes you to things that maybe the higher ups, the stodgy higher ups are saying are
so it's
not
like Dead
quite
Poets
appropriate
Society.
for your age. It's actually the film that Dead Poets Society should have been, but wasn't brave enough to actually be. It's the dark side of Dead Poets Society in a way, and it's not just a flip side of it, but it's a really amazing movie. It was based on a book that then became a play, and I think everybody should go out and see it. It's not exactly, it's not like a super demanding movie. It's entertaining. It's got plenty of workplace sexual violence. So in the time period that we're in, it has a lot of kind of oblique themes that might be provocative to some people here. But the main point of the movie is like I said, this kind of our desires as people, and especially as young people, to worship heroes and to have our world kind of put into focus by a strong personality, and the downsides of that. It's really, really a great classic film, and everybody should go out and see it. The more current thing that I want to suggest to everybody is Mary and I just got done watching Errol Morris's Wormwood. Have you guys talked about that?
No.
At all?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
No, but I need to see that.
I just started watching it. It's super good.
Yeah, that is. I'm an Errol Morris fan from way back. Like, he's not necessarily my number one documentary guy, but he is a genius, and what he does is so interesting to me. This is like the kind of the apotheosis of his entire style. It's the combination of interviews with how he always did it way back since Thin Blue Line, reenactments, kind of dramatic reenactments. So it's not exactly like a cinema verite, but it's got this interview with this guy whose father was mysteriously either committed suicide or was killed or died. It's a mystery that this tries to put together because he was a CIA analyst during the times that they were doing mind control experiments, the MK Ultra program, right? You guys know about that?
Yes.
And it is extremely absorbing, and it's several episodes, but it really works as a movie.
Wait, where is this on Netflix?
Yes, it's on Netflix, as a matter of fact.
I will watch that.
And it's just so creepy and weird, and it really is like a mind fuck of you go down a rabbit hole, because at first you're like, oh, I see where this is going. It's the CIA doing this, and then you're like, no, this is where it's going. It has all these kind of tendrils coming off of it, and yet it's also like a great drama of this character of the son who has been haunted by his father's mysterious death for 50 years.
Wow. Oh, it sounds great.
Oh, speaking of MK Ultra, can I ask for a recommendation?
Yes.
So say this friend of mine, it's not me, somebody else, is going to go upstate for the weekend to a cabin in the woods, where they will ingest large quantities of psychedelic medicine. And say this person is looking for something to put on the television to enhance the experience. What would this person watch?
I love the modern lingo, man. I'm so into it.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't call it medicine in high school. I just called it psycho drugs, and they were fun, and it was true. Now it's plant. Now it's plant medicine.
Oh, you know that's bullshit. You
Now
love
it's
that
plant.
new agey stuff.
Of course I do. I'm not being facetious. It's plant medicine. It's deep.
Listen,
it's plant medicine.
Jamie,
Absolutely.
I'll only tell you. I'll give you two answers here. One is that whenever I have taken the plant medicine and tried to look at anything on a screen, I just can't. It doesn't resolve into anything meaningful. I'm like, look, it's like photons being projected on a flat surface and colors, and then it ends here and I begin there. And so I've always found it impossible to actually concentrate on something like that in any kind of altered state. Having said that,
Matthew, you do have a pick. I have a story about this, but you do have a pick.
Okay, we'll get to your story.
Yeah, go. What's your pick?
Having said that, I think what I would want in a situation like that is something that actually brings me back to nature. I mean, you're in the cabin in the woods. If you have to look at the screen, something like Planet Earth,
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Crouching Tiger. No, just not watch anything with people actually flying. Just nature documentaries. Any of those really great ones. There's several out there that have gotten acclaim recently. I think it's called Blue. Can anyone help me out here?
No.
But there's a
Blue
new
Earth
one coming out.
It's like Blue Earth, Blue
Earth,
Planet.
yes.
Oh, I watched that already.
That's actually really beautiful.
That scene with the baby iguanas is so fucking stressful.
Not good.
What's that?
That scene I don't want to give anything away, but that scene when the baby iguanas are being born and the snakes are trying to eat them is very stressful. So watch out if you're on psychedelics for that one.
Maybe you just need to do something classic like watch 2001, where you're just getting sucked into this other world at the end, and just watch the last 20 minutes on a loop.
I also have two recommendations. That's a good idea. I may do that. I would just like to add two things that may also be good in that situation. is the Star Trek's Just Ships edit. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's just they did it for every.
Oh my God! How have I not seen that yet?
They did it for every Star Trek,
That's
and
amazing.
it is edited so that it is just the ships. It's very relaxing. Also, if you're into the color
I know
red,
that there's this thrum, but there's one where it's just the thrum of the ship. Boom, boom, boom.
ooh,
That's
that
great.
also
I'm going to
sounds
check that
good.
out.
Also, if you're into the color red, there's a lot of it in Dynasty.
Dynasty, the TV show.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we actually figured this out last year.
Your friend did.
Yes, my friend and her friends.
Right, her friends
figured it.
and her friends,
figured
yeah.
it out last
Yeah,
year.
right.
That
You're a friend of a friend.
That Downton Abbey, Dynasty, and Friends are actually a trilogy on the death of capitalism.
I totally believe that. I totally
just
believe
told
that.
out of order temporally. I get it.
When I was in high school age, I had a friend who took some plant medicine and with his friends, and then had to go home because of not really a curfew. Basically, like that's when his parents would pick him up. And at the time, he was really into Oliver Stone's JFK. He was probably about 15. And so he was bored and he was tripping and he popped on JFK by Oliver Stone. And he ended up 15 minutes into the movie.
Big mistake.
Crawling to the TV to turn it off because what had occurred to him was that the movie was part of the CIA plot and they produced it to see who would watch it so they knew who they needed to kill.
Yeah, that seems pretty true. That seems highly possible.
Yep. Deep stuff.
Yeah, I don't, Jamie, my suggestion is you're in a cabin in the woods, go outside, turn off the screen just for a little while, listen to some music, put on some headphones and play your favorite song 20 times on loop.
That's definitely going to happen too. I mean, there's always a time when this person wanders off into the woods at night and just stares into the deepest, darkest fears of their subconscious soul. But it's going to be very cold out.
Contemplate your own mortality. Actually, you know what? Another great one I think would be is the horror movie Sunshine, where basically, I don't want to give too much away, but it's basically, I think I've recommended that years ago on this show, but it's one of my favorite horror films because it's about a spaceship that flies to the sun. Have you guys seen this movie?
You're recommending a horror movie?
My friends have already
for
spoiled
someone
it
who's
for
tripping?
me, but no.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, because here's what I like to do in plant medicine world is contemplate my own mortality and really kind of practice dying. So these films that like put you in the position of the person who's dying, but not just dying like I'm getting stabbed or shot or falling down a well. This is like I'm being absorbed by the sun. I'm like out orbiting the sun, and it is like burning me into particles.
Deep thoughts.
That to me is a good time.
Maybe when I get cold out in the woods, I will come in and watch that movie.
What do you think would happen if Trump ever took plant medicine? How do you think he would react to that?
Get me a Whopper. I need a Whopper.
See, that's what I think is so great about. They did that on the President Show, and they had Deepak Chopra on. Well, it wasn't plant medicine, but the idea was that Deepak was going to lead him in like a really deep meditation, and he meditates and he goes into his subconscious, and his subconscious is absolutely horrifying. And then he has this breakthrough where he realizes that he is all of these identities that he rejects in his subconscious, whether it be like the crone or the masked man. Like they really get into like, first he's like going up behind a Miss America pageant contestant to grope her, and then she turns around and she's like looks like literally like a crone, like in the proper sense that's used in like fairy tales. And she turns to him and she goes, "I'm the same age as you." Ha 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 ha. And he goes, no. And he kind of like blubbers out. And then, and he goes through all this and he cries. And at the end, he's like pointing to all these people. He's like, "You are I and I am you." And then Deepak snaps his fingers and takes him out. And Deepak's like, "So how was it?"
This is an episode of the President Show?
And Deepak goes, "And so how was it?" And then he goes, "Fine, didn't learn anything." Just like the perfect.
All right, I got to see that. Hey, Jamie, let me just ask you this real quick. What type of plant medicine are your friends taking?
All types.
Are they the kind that grow out of cow patties, or are they kind that come from a vine?
Yes. Oh, I mean, no, we're not we're not starting ayahuasca church, not yet. That's like part of my 5-year plan.
All right. Well, because I guess it kind of depends. You know, if it's the kind that comes from the cannabis flower, That's one kind of movie. Is it the kind that comes from the the spores of the mushroom? That's another kind, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what these people have obtained, but I think it's safe to say they have like a real tolly plate on their hands.
It's a completely
different
they've got a
medicine bundle
like
they're just going to lay out.
A tasting menu, if you will.
It's a totally different trip.
Oh my God, a flight of mushrooms. I've never seen that, but that's a great idea.
Different trip. Next time I'm on Plant Medicine, I'm going to listen to your intro song, Matthew.
That's cool. Listen to all of Injustice for All from start to finish over and over.
Yeah, probably not.
One of the best times I ever had.
Even when I'm tripping, I like good music.
Listen, one of the best times I ever had on Plant Medicine in my youth was listening to Lou Reed's Perfect Day like 45 times in a row.
I love that
and just
song.
like sobbing and laughing and sobbing. It was like the most amazing experience I maybe ever had.
I have to say, white people going on for way too long about their drug experiences does remind me of a good Dave Chappelle impression. So we're going to leave it there.
Leave it there.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yes. Way to wrap it up.
Yep. I'm a pro. Thanks, brother. Film guy Matthew.
Duck the landing. Thank you, sir.
There.
Always a pleasure.
Take care, man.
Good luck out there, Jamie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. We are going to go to the fun half. Become a member of the Majority Report today. Of course, you can go to our website, our new and improved website. Our new and radically improved website, I would say. Where you can join. That's how this show happens. That's how it sustains itself. Use our Jet link as a pass-through. JustCoffee.coop. A win for everyone. The environment, for workers, for a cooperative economy, and of course for us and for you, because it's great tasting organic coffee. Check me out on The Michael Brooks Show, iTunes, YouTube. We will go to the fun half, 646-257-3920, 646-257-3920, about to turn on the IMs. See you shortly.
C'est une poupée qui fait noir. C'est une poupée